Good evening, I'm Chris Glover. Thanks for joining us tonight. 2 men and a woman are dead after a shooting inside a North York business this afternoon. News of the shooting sent many parents into a panic as they came to pick up their young children at a nearby daycare. Let's get right to our Lane Harrison, who's been at the scene near Don Mills and York Mills all evening long. And Lane, we got an update from police a short time ago. What did they say?
That's right, Chris. Now, one of the biggest questions that has been swirling this afternoon is what happened to the suspect in this tragedy. And in that update that you just mentioned, police told us that he was among the dead. Now, police aren't confirming that they're investigating this as a murder-suicide, saying they can't rule out any possibility, and they don't know if he died from a self-inflicted gunshot wound. But what I can tell you for certain is that this afternoon's events set off a chaotic scene in the parking lot here.
Bruce, come here. Come, Bruce.
For those with kids at this North York daycare, today was a parent's worst nightmare. A shooting at the same address sent it into lockdown and brought parents to the parking lot in a panic.
A lot of emotions right now, honestly. I don't know how to describe it. I just feel overwhelmed. That's all I could describe it. Like, you think your child is safe and you don't know what could happen, you know? I'm thankful that at the daycare he was kept safe. They kept the babies all safe.
Amidst the chaos, officers could be seen handing children to their parents across the police tape.
I was really relieved to know that he was being looked after and was okay, and obviously it's a first for us, so later on I'll probably cry when it sinks in, but right now I'm just really happy that he's okay.
The shooting happened in a shared office building. Police say it took place at a business that was financial in nature. A man who works in the building and called 911 said it was a mortgage and investment firm.
It was around 3:15 or so, which I heard a bang. I didn't know what it was. I thought it was maybe circuit breaker or something because it was really loud. Then came out of my office and I heard some arguments in the reception.
He says he heard 2 men and a woman fighting, but didn't see anything after he fled when the shots went off. Police confirmed that 2 men and a woman ended up dead.
It's our belief at this point that the altercation that took place in there was in relation to that business.
After police arrived on scene, the force's K-9 unit and emergency task force swept the building. Police wouldn't say what kind of gun was used in the attack or confirm if it was a murder-suicide.
Well, I can tell you that the person that we believe to be responsible is among the deceased, but I mean, with every homicide investigation, we have to be open to all possibilities. This is no different from any other homicide investigation.
Police say more information on how the suspect died will come from an autopsy, though that won't happen until Wednesday. We're also hearing from Mayor Olivia Chow on this tonight. On a post on social media, she said, quote, "My heart goes out to the families of the lives lost in Don Mills today. Today has been a terrifying day for students and children who were locked down in the school and daycare near where the shooting took place." Chow is also asking anyone with information to contact investigators. Chris?
Yeah, terrifying day for those students and children, and also obviously for their parents as well. Thanks for all this today, Lane. Up in Markham, 1 person is dead and 2 others are injured after a 3-vehicle collision. The crash happened in the intersection of Don Mills Road and Simonston Boulevard near Steeles Avenue East and Highway 404. It happened shortly after 1:30. 3 people were taken to hospital, and paramedics say 1 person was pronounced dead in hospital, while another person has serious injuries. Police say a large box truck crossed into multiple lanes and collided with 2 cars. Police are still investigating, and no charges have been laid yet. Turning now to the oppressive heat we're dealing with this week. Today is just day 1 of the potentially dangerous hot weather, and Colette will be here later on in the show to talk about when some relief is in store. But first, Dale Manuktuk gives us a sense of how the city is activating plans to try to keep people cool and safe.
It's that time of year again when Khalil Al-Drubi, his wife, and 5 kids begin to strategically place fans throughout their 3-bedroom apartment. anything to deal with the heat.
Sometimes we put the pillow and some blanket in the freezer before to go to bed. It just give you a few minutes before to sleep.
Ultimately, the fans just push the hot air around the home, which is on the 21st floor of a rental building in Thorncliffe Park. They used to have 2 window air conditioners installed, but the building owners put a stop to that.
So there's some notices that we not allowed to put the air condition window AC for that is unsafe.
Also unsafe, this level of heat. For some, prolonged exposure could lead to heat illness, heat stroke, or even worse, death.
The hotter it is, then the more you can expect health effects, and also the longer duration of heat also leads to worse outcomes for people. So this one is not a day or two, it's anticipated to go until Friday.
This isn't the typical heat wave. According to Environment Canada, it's a heat dome covering Toronto and beyond.
This ridge of high pressure area that is just cooking all of the air inside it. The sun comes in, bakes the ground, and just makes it warm, warm, and warm. So what we're going to see are humidity values of 40 plus.
Those kinds of temperatures bringing mixed reaction throughout the city.
For me, in the middle of the day, it's really just staying inside. Like, it's just too hot to be out in that kind of heat.
I guess don't mind so much. I got all my summer dresses ready, so looking forward to that.
It's definitely tough, even if you're used to it. The heat affects everyone differently, and even then, even if, like I said, even if you're used to it, it's still hard.
To help residents, the city is pointing people to its heat relief network, where Torontonians can find one of over 400 cool spaces. It allows you to narrow the search by a number of filters, including where you can fill a water bottle and what's close to schools. Speaking of schools, not all of them in the city have air conditioning, like West Prep near Bathurst and Eglinton, where some of the precautions include rotating students into areas of the school that do have AC, like a library.
Everybody is really aware that this is going on because everybody feels it, and they're going to make sure that the kids are safe, hydrated. Outdoor activities may be limited or not at all. Inside this school, for example, the principal just told me that they shortened lunch so they wouldn't be outside for so long.
Meanwhile, for the people who live outdoors, they too face increased risk. In anticipation of the heat dome, these advocates have been fundraising water to help the vulnerable.
There's this idea that if people are stranded outdoors, they're only susceptible to the elements when it's cold, but the reality is that actually more people who are unhoused die because of complications from the summer heat. So having this water right now is actually an imperative, life-saving resource.
Okay, and that was from Ardell Manukduk, who is reporting. Meantime, Canadian stars and celebrities have braved the heat and hit the red carpet in Toronto tonight for the much-anticipated debut of a documentary on Celine Dion. The film features an intimate look at the singer's life as she deals with a life-changing diagnosis. Tegan Beaudet was at the premiere.
Tonight is all about Celine Dion. She has a new documentary out called I Am Celine Dion. And this is the first time we've really heard from Celine Dion in the last few years. She's been very public about her health issues and battling stiff person syndrome. This documentary is expected to give us a bit of insight into what the last few years have been like for her. And on the red carpet tonight, you can see behind me, a lot of Canadian celebrities and talent are out here to support her. Julie Black, Canada's Queen of R&B, is hosting tonight. And this is what she had to say about what audiences can expect from the documentary.
Well, you're going to definitely see courage. You're going to see vulnerability. You're going to see a light, togetherness, just bravery, and that I say resistance more than resilience, because it takes resistance to build muscles, to see that change, and that's what I'm seeing. That's what I saw.
I also talked to Canadian actress Amanda Brugel tonight about Celine Dion and her career, and she said she's been listening to her since she was a kid, and she's had an immense impact on her. She's really excited to get an unfiltered look at the star's life in this documentary.
The first thing I think of is honesty and integrity. I feel like she was one of the first celebrities I would see when she would have interviews. She was just broken open and grounded and kind, but open. There were no. I mean, I'm sure that she has a mask. Everyone does, but she just seemed so honest about her flaws, her failures, her fears, not just F words. She wasn't I just noticed that. But she's so kind and open, and I admire that about her. She's a ball of energy, but it's her genuine spirit that's the most captivating.
I Am Celine Dion is out on Prime Video next week on June 25th. Tegan Beaudet, CBC News.
Welcome back. There was a debate tonight in the federal riding of Toronto-St. Paul's just ahead of next week's by-election. Here's how some voters reacted right after the debate.
The housing issues, the mental health issues, the opioid crisis, the affordability, all the different things that really affect our day-to-day as we walk down the street. It was really nice to see that they are struggling with those questions. So my question now becomes, who do I choose?
I feel like, all three that were there could represent this community, have been getting a sense of who this community is. So that was, and there was respect. And don't we need respect?
By the absence of one of the candidates, I'm going to have to take another look at where he stands in the pecking order.
There are 84 candidates in the race, the most in the history of Canadian federal politics. The Liberal, NDP, Green, and Conservative candidates were invited, but Conservative Don Stewart didn't show. Instead, Liberal Leslie Church, Amrit Parhar from the NDP, and the Greens' Christian Cullis debated each other. They took a mix of local, national, and international questions, including on Canada's response to the war in Gaza, revelations of foreign interference, housing affordability, and multiple other issues. The by-election was called to replace former Cabinet Minister Carolyn Bennett, who's represented the riding since 1997, and by-election day is next Monday. Now to a CBC News exclusive. An Uxbridge woman is speaking out tonight. Her co-worker was sexually assaulted she was sexually assaulted by her co-worker at the office, but it took 6 years to schedule a hearing for her complaint at Ontario's Human Rights Tribunal. As Angelina King found out, her case is just one example of how backlogs are impacting human rights claims.
I wasn't going to remain silent anymore.
Patricia Sayers says she was always thinking about the women she left behind after she was sexually assaulted and harassed by a coworker at her retail job.
I went to management to report him and what had happened, and they basically did nothing. This is the report I was given at the store.
So she quit. She says she didn't feel safe at work. She went to the police and filed a case with the Human Rights Tribunal of Ontario, or HRTO, against the man who assaulted her and management who dealt with her complaint.
I thought it was the quickest way to make it safer for those women. That was not true at all.
Her HRTO case was filed in February 2018, but it was deferred because the employee was criminally charged. He was convicted of sexual assault in 2019, and the HRTO case resumed. The next year, unsuccessful mediation. 3 years later, Sayers finally got hearing dates, October 2023. But the HRTO seemingly didn't book them into its system, so new dates were set for January 2024, 6 years after she filed.
I wanted to effect change at that particular store.
Which is why she went to the HRTO, because it can order public interest remedies with the purpose of preventing similar situations from happening. But because the case dragged on for so long, Sayers says the remedy she was seeking became unattainable.
The HRTO was at fault for that happening because of the dysfunction that is going on there, the backlog that is there.
By the time her case would have been heard, the store was changing ownership. 2 of the men she filed against no longer worked there, and a third was set to retire. Because of that, she says she agreed to a watered-down settlement earlier this year, which included some compensation and the store providing human rights training. She withdrew her case at the tribunal, so her voice, she says, was never heard.
It would have been important for me to be able to say that in a hearing, for them to listen to it, and see if the Human Rights Tribunal said, yeah, she does have value. Women do have value.
According to tribunal data obtained by CBC Toronto, fewer cases have been making it to a hearing. Merit decisions have dropped by nearly 60% in the last 6 years, and the number of abandoned cases is going up. There were 3 times more last fiscal year compared to 6 years ago.
You can wear people out.
Kathy Laird is with a group that keeps tabs on the province's tribunals and says the backlog and wait times can lead to applicants abandoning their cases, files being dismissed, and stories never heard.
That's what makes human rights law, is when matters get to a hearing and get fully heard and decided.
Lawyer Tanya Walker says she's seeing the backlog improve, but
it doesn't serve any good for anyone if a matter just settles or is dismissed because of delay. It's not fair. It's not justice.
Tribunals Ontario says it doesn't comment on specific cases, but it's working on moving applications through the system in a more efficient and timely manner. It says at the end of this fiscal year, it had reduced its backlog by 13%.
I think that our society at large doesn't take violence against women seriously enough. That's why I want to speak up. And I want to try and change that for future generations of women and young girls.
Hoping they are safe and feel heard. Angelina King, CBC News, Toronto.
Next to closing arguments at the trial of 3 men charged with first-degree murder and multiple counts of attempted murder stemming from an incident in 2021. A gunman opened fire on a family while they were working at their Mississauga takeout restaurant, killing the owner's 25-year-old son. Tyler Cheese has the latest from court.
In the Crown's final address, prosecutor Brian McGuire focused on the testimony of his star witness. He urged the jury to take that witness at his word and to consider how other evidence supports it. Michaela Ross testified earlier in the trial, saying the 3 accused pressured him to pledge allegiance to ISIS and told him about the murder plot. Key pieces of evidence include phone records that show one of the accused had viewed multiple videos of the same ISIS leader that Arras was asked to pledge allegiance to. Arras also told the court that a 9mm Glock was used as the murder weapon. Phone records also show that one of the accused used Google to search Glock 33 and Glock 43X in the days before the shooting. Arras said he was told these and other details when he met with the 3 accused at the Amazon resale warehouse where they worked on May 31st, 2021. Just 2 days before that, a man entered Chickenland, a small restaurant on Glen Erin Drive and the College Way in Mississauga, and opened fire on the family that runs the eatery. The owner's son, Naeem Akal, was killed. Akal's mother, father, brother, and a family friend were injured. His 13-year-old sister was shot at but not injured. Anan Nath, Saliman Raza, and Nakash Abbasi are on trial for allegedly planning the attack. The Crown has argued that Nath was the shooter, Raza drove the getaway car, and Abbasi was the mastermind. Akal had worked at the same warehouse as the accused, and it's alleged that he was targeted because he planned to go to the police about their alleged ties to ISIS. McGuire told the jury that all 3 are equally guilty of first-degree murder and 5 counts of attempted murder. He reviewed multiple pieces of evidence for the jury, including records that show Raza's phone was located near Chickenland the night before the shooting. That was after Raza had texted Nath asking if he wanted to practice driving that night. Defense counsel for each of the accused will now make their closing arguments on Tuesday. Then the day after that, the judge will give his instructions to the jury before they begin deliberations. Tyler Cheese, CBC News, Brampton.
This last one is for Colette and all of our animal lovers out there. The Toronto Zoo is giving us a peek at its 2 newest residents, a pair of baby red pandas that were born last week. They were born Thursday to their mother, Sakura, in a nest box at the zoo, and the nearly 11-year-old panda was the only red panda at the zoo, only arriving there earlier this year. Before coming to Toronto, she and her former mate at a zoo in Maryland shared one last passionate goodbye. Red pandas are an endangered species with only around 2,500 to 10,000 in the wild, and the 2 new cubs, they have not been named yet. But I'm sure there will be some sort of a naming competition, and aren't they cute?
Oh, they are so gorgeous. I absolutely love them. The cutest. Can't believe it.
And how will they be dealing with this heat that we're dealing with right now, Colette?
Well, you know, I like the idea of the passion and the heat of their final goodbye. I'm not sure, though, how passionate folks are about this when we've got a heat warning in place. And this isn't just 1 day or 2 days. You know, this is going to be over multiple days where we will continue with these kinds of temperatures that are in the 30s, but humidex values towards 40 or above, and we're not seeing the relief at night. So one of these reasons why we get into the heat warning, because it really truly can become dangerous. And we have an opportunity right now. This is the beginning of it. This is day one. We were up to 30 degrees today, but we have a chance to make sure that this doesn't become a deadly event. And unfortunately, so often these things do. So we need to check on our friends and our neighbors, those without air conditioning or with some underlying health conditions, or the elderly, and not leaving anyone in the car, children or pets, and looking after us all. If anyone is showing symptoms of heat exhaustion, dizziness, rapid heartbeat, headache, or feeling faint, these are some of the things to look for. We want to take it easy. We want to stay hydrated. There's a look at the highs from today, and look at Windsor, 34. Yeah, humidex values in southwestern Ontario for the next few days in the mid-40s. And when you get to 46 or above, it is truly dangerous in that kind of territory. Now, the other thing here with all this moisture in the atmosphere, I referred to it as juicy earlier, which Chris seemed to like, but it truly is there. And that can provide for some thunderstorms to bubble up. So we saw a little bit of that today, very isolated. Tomorrow, a few more likely in those afternoon hours, and then they dissipate. It doesn't provide much relief, but it can give a pretty heavy downpour of 30, 40, or 50 millimeters there in a short period of time, and we'll have that repeating pattern as we move through the next few days. Overnight tonight, these are the temperatures, and not so much tonight, but as we get towards kind of the peak of this, as we're peaking into it, in the heat, Wednesday night, Thursday night, then even in the overnight, some of these humidex values are going to stick around 30. So you really see why I say you don't get much relief at night without the benefit of air conditioning. So here we go, 32 at least for tomorrow. We may hit 33, 32 on Wednesday, 31 Thursday, throughout the period, feeling like we're in the 40s or at least 40. Chris, hoping to see this break as we get towards next weekend.
Yeah, I think we all are. All right, thank you, Colette.
You're welcome.
All right, and that is our show for you tonight. Thank you so much for watching. You can catch the latest headlines anytime on our website. That's at cbc.ca/Toronto. Have a great night, everyone, and stay cool.